All right, let's talk Oregon Ducks. Of course, this is a team with a lot of wins on and off the field going back to last season, a lot of off-season wins so far. Dan Lanning, his team, has done a great job in the recruiting game, in the transfer portal game, as well as this program transitions from the now defunct Pac-12 to the Big Ten. Oregon and Dan Lanning have kind of slid under the radar with the great jobs they've done in recruiting. And then we've got great news on that front that they're not done. They're not resting on their laurels. They pulled off two more really fantastic recruiting moves. Let's dive into them right now. This is courtesy of 24/7 Sports. Oregon's hot streak on the recruiting trail continued on Saturday as they landed top 24/7 five-star cornerback Dorian Brew just hours after landing four-star tight end Desan Brom. Hopefully I pronounced Desan's name correctly. If I'm not, please, I apologize. Brew announced his commitment via social media. Hayes Fawcett of On3.com was the first to report the news. Brew, a five-star cornerback from Conroe, Texas, committed to Oregon on Saturday afternoon, making him the fifth Oregon commitment of the past week. Brew picked the Ducks over Florida State, Ohio State, Texas, LSU, and more. Brew is the number 27 overall player in the top 247, the number 5 corner, and the number 7 player in Texas. So this guy's a legit prospect, undeniably so. And the 24/7 Sports Composite, Brew comes in at the number 61 overall, the number 7 corner, and the number 11 player in Texas. So the consensus is about Dorian Brew that this guy's going to be a star player, and of course, great news that the Oregon Ducks picked him up. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, but first, Oregon fans, in the comment section below, we're talking Dorian Brew, we're talking corners, we're talking defensive backs. So give us your favorite, the best defensive back in Oregon program history in the comment section below. There's a couple guys that I think could maybe jump to the top of the list, but you can only pick up one. Give us the best corner or safety defensive back in Oregon history, and make sure you put them in the comment section below. But Miles, let me throw it over to you now. What are your thoughts on this latest outstanding recruiting news for the Oregon Ducks?
Yeah, Nick, I think this guy is going to be a fantastic player. I mean, firstly, just talking about the player himself, one of the highest rated recruits, 5-star guy. If you look at the composite ratings on 24/7 Sports, one of the top cornerback prospects in the country. He has great size. He's 6', 200 as a guy that's still in high school. I think he's going to grow and be an excellent size corner for this team. Secondly, getting a guy out of the state of Texas, being able to be Dan Lanning. We know he's a great recruiter, but just being able to assert your dominance every so often and land one of the biggest recruits out of the state of Texas, I think is great for this Oregon program because like everyone else, there's a lot of big names moving and shifting around the college football world. Oregon is going to have a change of scenery. There's going to be a little bit different view being in the Big Ten. And as you're moving to the Big Ten, being able to still come in and land these big-time commitments from across the country to assert Dan Lanning's recruiting dominance, I think is going to be crucial. Also, you're not the only team moving. Texas as well is moving to the SEC. And so being able to go into their home state when they're also trying to do the same thing you are, assert their dominance in recruiting, show that they're strong as they move into a new division. I think that's really good to be able to steal one of their best players out of their state when they're in the same position as you. I think bodes very well for Dan Lanning and co. And finally, I just think that this guy is going to be a star. Not only does he have great size, he's got great speed, he's a track star, he's got great vertical, he's a basketball star. This guy really, his ceiling is as high as it could possibly be given all of his physical tools and athleticism. I think if he can break the game down and play in this Oregon scheme very well, this could be one of the better corners Oregon has had in quite some time.
You know, right before Oregon played the Colorado Buffaloes last season, Dan Lanning had the camera on him in the locker room. It's now the famous video. I'm sure everyone's seen it a million times. When he was talking about Colorado, he was saying, they're playing for clicks. We're playing for wins, or something like that. Again, I apologize if I don't directly quote that perfectly. But that just speaks. That message right there is the entire frame of the Dan Lanning program in Eugene. For him, it's not about the flash. It's not about style. It's about substance, right? If you go back to the former glory days, recent glory days of Oregon under Chip Kelly, it was a lot of flash, right? It was the flashy uniforms. They're one of the first teams to have the crazy uniforms, a lot of different things going on, right? They ran that blur, high-speed offense that was, moving a million miles per hour. They were one of the first teams to really use that so successfully. That was a lot of flash, and that program got a lot of national recruiting interest because of all the flash and the style. The problem with flash and style it's like a fad, right? It comes and goes, right? It works for a few years and you're able to absolutely crush it, but it doesn't sustain because there's going to be another flashy program, right? There's a Deion Sanders, a Coach Prime is going to go to Colorado and suddenly you're not the flashy program anymore, right? That's just how it works, right? Flash style, that's a short-term thing. And Oregon fans, I'm sure you guys can relate because there was a noticeable dip after that glory year run with Chip Kelly for a number of years. But now we're seeing what Dan Lanning is doing. It's all about substance, right? It's all about wind. It's all about being methodical. And the fact that this substance strategy that he's using is allowing them to win at the same level they were doing when they were the style program, the flashy program, the style program, that is a great sign. Because I remember during those glory years under Chip Kelly, they'd go into Texas and get 5-star recruits all the time just because they were kind of the cool program to go to during those few years. But obviously that dipped when the fad kind of wore off. Oregon has no style points right now. Let's be honest, right? They're a good program, but they're not like the cool, flashy program in college football. They play good fundamental defense. They've got a very strong offense. They like to run the ball. They're very methodical on offense, short passing game, rhythm passing game, right? That's who they are stylistically. It's not nearly as exciting as it was under Kelly. And yet, despite that, Lanning is still able to recruit just as good as they were when they were the sexy team in college football. This is a great sign for the long-term health of this Oregon Ducks program. People aren't paying attention to this, how good Oregon is able to recruit nationally, even though they're now a quote-unquote boring program. That speaks to the greatness of Dan Lanning and his staff in terms of building a solid recruiting pipeline. And like we talk about all the time, if you've got a great pipeline, you will win year in and year out.